there, friends. Welcome back. I hope you are all well. I have had a little bit of a shop at the Joann's Markdown, and so we're going to be creating with a paper pad I picked up from that sale. And so this is just going to be a really super simple and quick to make folio. This has pockets, of course, because I do like to have lots of inserts so that we can add plenty of finishing details for our project. And so we've got full-size pages and then also some nice pockets for inserts to be added. So if that sounds good to you, then stick around and we will make it together. So we're going to be working with this Desert Blossom paper pad today. I did pick this up from Joann's. We visited last week to see what the values were going to be with the markdowns. And as it is, I think, nationwide, everything is 20% off, which is better than full price. But I feel that if you had gone when they had a regular sale, or had you been able to use a coupon in the app, you might have gotten 40% off of a regular price item. So this was not a great markdown, but I did really like it. These warm colors are very earthy and it reminds me of summer. And I want to be on the fast track to warm weather. So I picked this up and I think it's really lovely. There are a lot of foiled papers in here as well, so a lot of additional detail. And this paper pad does come with a couple of different cut apart sheets, so there's a lot of options for focal images as well as inserts. I'm going to be working with this white cardstock today just to demonstrate, but the thought behind this would be that it would be sort of inspired by a one sheet wonder. So we're going to be using our pattern paper for the actual book itself instead of adding it to a cardstock base, but it's just a little bit easier to share with you and show you where the score lines are. So this is a piece of 65-pound weight cardstock, and that really doesn't matter for the purpose of our project today, but I did want it to be very sturdy. And so this is cut to be 6 inches high by 10 1/4 wide. And so we're going to have 1/4 of an inch depth on one side, and that helps us to allow the depth of the layers that we want to add. So I'm going to come in and score it first, and then we'll bring in our envelope punch board and put some tabs on it. And that's just for some additional detail. You don't have to do that part, but I think it just adds a little bit of fun. So I'm here with the long end toward the top of my scoreboard, and I'm going to come in for my first score at 2.5. And then I'll add 1/4 of an inch to that, so 2 3/4. And remember I said we're building just a little bit of depth there, and so we're going to have enough room for the inside. Now I'm going to also score it at 7 3/4 because I want the back of the book to be 5 inches wide, and that will leave 2.5 inches on this side as well. And so now what I want to do is bring in my envelope punch board and give myself a couple of tabs. I'm just going to be punching this today, so I don't need that score tool, but I thought it would be fun to have a tab on this side and then down here as well, just so that it has a little bit of extra interest. So I'm just going to bring this up to where that punch is on the top and get my first cut in right along the edge, and then I'll shift that down to where it is going to be 2.5 inches. Punch that again, and that's going to create the tab for this side. When I flip that over, now I'll be working with this side, but when I close them up, it will be on opposite ends. So I'll just repeat that process, 2.5 inches for each one. I'm bringing in my guillotine cutter for this part, so I'm going to stand up and hopefully it doesn't do bad things to my arm. And so I'm just going to bring that up here and line it up to where it will be on the cutting blade area where the indentation is. And then I'll just go ahead and crop that off, and you can hear it click when it's gone through that last little bit. And I've done that for this side as well, so you can tell that my tabs are on different sides. Now I'll just go ahead and fold on those score lines. You may be looking at that and think, oh, those don't meet in the middle, but we're going to be adding full pages to that, so that won't be an issue. Now remember that we're going to have the depth, that 1/4 of an inch side toward the left, and that way when we close it up, we'll have enough room inside for all those layers that we want to add. And so I would repeat this process with these same measurements using the pattern paper from the collection. I think this is very versatile, and so you could really bring in any collection or holiday and make this work. So I think that you're definitely going to want to keep this one handy for a quick pocket folio. I picked the paper for the inside to have this stripe. I think it looks nice against a busier pattern. That way it's a more noticeable layering. And I also want to make note that this pattern here on the back you're going to see again later on, but just keep in mind that we're going to get use out of that. So what was removed when we cut this is still going to be useful for us. So now what I want to do is bring in some pages that would go on either side. And so I have 2 of these pieces cut to be 6 high by 10 wide and scored at 5. So just exactly right in the middle. And I want to use the pocket to adhere this to, so that the pocket is going to become the moving hinge part. And because that is going to get a lot of use, I do want to use my Tombow for that. And I'm going to skip my 2 glue combo because I don't want that paper tape taking up any additional space in the pocket. And another thing that I want to do before I begin to add my glue is just take a little piece of painter tape, just as like a low tack tape, and I'm sticking that down gently so that it will be flat against the surface and not want to pop up as things that are folded will want to do. And then I'm going to come in with my Tombow. I'll add that to the top, the bottom, and the outside. And so this is going to become our pocket. I just opened a new Tombow, so it's a little unpredictable how quickly it's going to run out. So I'm keeping that in mind and positioning it pretty well in from the outside so that I don't get any seepage as it becomes in contact with the other piece. So now I want to bring this to the side here and bring my score lines together. And that way everything will line up nice and neat and be even. And so I'm just going to press that down, making sure everything lines up. Remember, because we don't have our double-sided tape, you're going to have to hold this briefly while that glue sets up a little bit. So I'll just do that, and then I will rejoin you when this is ready to move to the next step. So now when you open it, you'll see that we have these sort of connected a little bit. I'm just going to reach in here and pull gently that double-sided tape so that can get it apart. And then I'm going to remove that from the pocket. So now you'll see you're going to get 2 full-size pages here, and then when you flip it back open, here is where your pocket's going to be. And I'm going to repeat that same process for this side as well, so I'll rejoin you when that side is adhered. So now we have the left-hand side added as well, and off camera while I was waiting, I did just manage to take a tiny little sliver of that page off because it stuck out a little bit from the top, but since everything should line up, then it was easy just to cut that off. So here I am, I'm just removing that low tack tape very carefully, and when I have this open, you'll see that I have a full page in the middle and then 2 pockets here, and then each side will also have a full page. And so this is going to be great for your full-size pictures. You will notice that it is a little flimsy. So the next thing we want to do is add an additional layer for the front cover and what will be the back. And so I have this sage colored cardstock. I think it works really well with this pattern. And I've cut that to be 6 inches high by 10 inches wide and scored at 5. And so that would be the same as that pattern paper. And I'm going to add this for those additional layers of thickness and third and sturdiness, but I'm going to position it so that folded scored side is along the edge where you will notice it most. And so I will go ahead and use my 2 glue combo for this part. And then just press that over. I put a little bit more of that tape on this side as well. And so I'm going to pull the backing off of that. And then add more of my Tombow. You would think that because this is on the right hand side that I would be adding that extra layer here, but I want to add it to the back because this is going to wind up to be our back cover. So let's just lay this out flat, and then I'll add this here. Right along that score line. Remember, we can trim it if necessary. So let's just get that into place. That is working out great. So let's add a little bit of the pattern paper. And this was going to be a project inspired by a one sheet wonder, but I am going to be using 2 full-size sheets for this. And so I figured since I cut into that stripe, I might as well add that to the back. So let's add that here. And so we're going to get a border of that pretty sage colored cardstock. I'm just tacking that down. And so even though this looks like the middle, it's going to wind up to be the back, but now it has so many nice layers of thickness. So let's flip this over, and remember that we want to keep that 1/4 of an inch on the left-hand side. So once we fold that in, you see this is going to be our front cover. I want to add my trim here real quick before we add that. And so remember that I just like to tack this into place with a little bit of my double stick tape here and remove the backing. I picked this beautiful green color to coordinate. And once I press that into place, then I can sandwich that between the layers when I add my front cover. So let's do that now. I've already folded that and added the 2 glue combo to the middle. And now I know that I want this right-hand side to have that scored section. So I'll repeat the 2 glue combo for this side as well. And I've already taken the backing off of my paper tape. So I'll just add my Tombow here. And then bring that together with my corners and the edge, keeping everything nice and neat and even. And I've got more of that pretty stripe for the front. This is just a good way to get through the bulk of those sheets once you've decided to add them. I don't want to add offcuts back to that paper pad. So I did have a offcut for a layering pattern, and this was that pretty leaf and foiled pattern. I'm just going to add this here to the bottom. This is going to give us a little bit of extra detail, and since we already cut into that sheet, I figure that is fair game. Now, the paper pad that I'm working with did have some cutter parts in a couple of different varieties, so there's plenty of choices. I'm just going to pick the 3x4 ones because I know they'll fit well into these pockets, and because I have 2, I have 4 of these cut. I'll just pick a couple and put in each one, and so these will be a great place to add some additional pictures, and there is room in the pockets for other flat keepsakes and mementos. So you can really load this up with your full-size pictures and add your journaling and get all of the details that go with your memories. So let's get the front decorated. This is just going to be pretty simple. I usually have a doily, and that helps to break up those busy paper patterns. I picked an oval this time because I have an arch shape for that focal image, and I think that kind of goes with that curve really well. So here is that image, and this was one of the cut aparts. I just clipped off the excess, you see, that would have been in the middle because I wanted more room for other details on the front cover. And so I really like this kind of boho desert-y looking focal image. So that's just gonna go here. And then I did create the flowers for this, as I like to do. And remember in the beginning, I shared with you that darker color that was on the back of one of the other patterns that we use. And I use the offcuts from that to create these two flowers. I've added my usual netting and twine. I got a little bit of a different combination of die cut foliage this time. I picked a leaf that would kind of emulate what was in the image. And then I also added some pink glitter cardstock, which kind of goes along with the pink in the background, and also that kind of brightens it up and gives it a little bit of sparkle. So I'm going to add that with my hot glue and tack that on here. I need as well tie myself a little bow while I'm at it. And so this satin ribbon is beautiful for bows, and you do want to have a closure so that you can keep all of those inserts you've added secure in those pockets. I'll just cut the ends off here with an angle so that it doesn't fray. You want to add some charms to that. Pick some cute little cacti with little flowers. I thought that was perfect match for this summer inspired deserty paper pad. I like to add that with hot glue on the string just so they fall exactly where I want. And so let's get those tacked on. The excess string. Then I'll just cover those cut ends with a little button there for some extra detail. I've got a couple of little sequins here. I've got one up on the raised section of the focal image, and I'll put two down onto the base so that it will be kind of adding to the dimension that we're building here. And so originally when I planned this project, my intention was to create the base that had 1/2 inch on one side and 1/4 inch on the other. And I did create a sample of that just so that I could make sure that my measurements were working and see how much room I was going to have to fill. And I decided that I wanted to have a little bit less room because I really want this to be a quick and easy to put together folio. And I didn't want to come up with tons of different inserts to put in. I just want this to be something you could make really quickly. I'd say this is once you pick your papers, maybe a 10-minute project, maybe 15, or a little bit longer if you make your own flowers. But I just really wanted it to be quick and simple. And so here is that project that I started with my measurements being 1/2 inch on one side and then 1/4 inch on the other. And you see, it would have had a lot of space to fill. And maybe that will be a project for another day. You can let me know in the comments if you'd like to see something made in a similar style as this, but with some additional inserts to fill it up. You can let me know down in the comments. So here's our project today, and I hope you like it. I had so much fun creating this, and I think it was such a great use of the offcuts to create my flowers and using the pockets to be the hinges for the moving parts. And so this is really quick, easy, and a lot of fun to make. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, let me know by giving me a comment, a like, and don't forget to subscribe. As always, you can check in the description for links. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day. And I thank you so much for watching. Bye.